friends. Thanks for stopping by. I had a little bit of time on my hands today, and I thought, why not cover an episode of The Twilight Zone? That's right, we love our Twilight Zone over here on this channel. And the episode I picked is one of my favorites. It is The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. And this one was scripted by Rod Serling, and of course he puts the full force of his writing excellence behind the script. I believe it is a great story. So we have Maple Street. It is a picturesque community full of neighbors that get along and are friendly to each other. Of course, that all changes when a few minor, let's say, incidents happen. Power goes out, radio's not working, car's not working. So it doesn't take long for the people to get a little bit freaked out and start to turn on each other. And eventually we end up with some full-bore mass hysteria in a way that only Serling can come up with. Now, I am excited to talk about this, and I got a few points I want to mention, but first I am going to go and rewatch this episode. It's been a little while, so I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to jump back on the camera, and we will talk about it. So I will see you very soon. Alright, I'm back from having finished the episode, and yeah, I really like this one a lot. I've seen it many times, but it's one of those episodes that I can just watch over and over and never get tired of, and I can always find little nuances in it every time I watch it, just something that didn't strike me before that strikes me on this viewing. And that happened today, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But first, I want to mention some details about the episode. So it originally aired on March 4th, 1960. So this was one of the first season episodes, and Serling gives a narration, but he wasn't yet doing his on-camera narration. It's just a voiceover. So it's one of them early episodes before he actually would go on camera and do that. So that's interesting to note. It was directed by Ron Wilson, who mostly did television shows. I looked him up. He was mostly a television director, but he did direct two other episodes of The Twilight Zone. One was called The Big Tall Wish, and the other was called Sleepover in a Quiet Town. Now, I'm here to tell you, that's another really good episode. I have vivid memories of watching that one when I was a little kid, and I'd like to talk about that another time because it's a good one, and I do recommend checking that one out. So he directed those as well as this episode. It had a large cast, a lot of characters in the story to kind of pull off the idea of the story, because you needed this neighborhood and you needed a bunch of neighbors to turn on each other. So I had a large cast. Most of them are faces that I didn't necessarily recognize from other things. The one I recognized most was the character Brant, was played by Claude Akins. And I recognize him from this old show that I used to watch, I guess reruns of when I was a kid. It was called Sheriff Lobo. Have you ever heard of Sheriff Lobo? Look it up. It was a show that was on reruns when I was a kid, and back then you just watched whatever was on because there was only 3 channels. So I remember watching the Sheriff Lobo show, and Claude Akins was Sheriff Lobo, so I recognize him from this. But he's actually a really good actor in this, and he's kind of playing the voice of reason. He's the character that's trying to kind of calm people down and get them to just think. And he's kind of up against it because it doesn't take much for these neighbors to really just turn on each other. And of course the idea is, and if you haven't seen this episode, I'm going to spoil what I guess the twist is, and it's that there are aliens that are manipulating the power grid, and they're turning off lights, and they're just doing things to incriminate the neighbors to their group, so they'll turn on each other. These aliens are poking them to get people to turn on each other, and that way they do all the dirty work, and the aliens don't have to really get their hands dirty, I guess. That's kind of what's going on. So Brant, he's trying to keep people calm, but it doesn't work out too well. He, of course, Serling had that crackling dialogue, and I think the Brant character had some of the best dialogue and the best delivery in the episode. I think his character is a good one and really well written. So, of course, I always got the clipboard of creeps here. Just looked a couple of quick things up. I like to talk about that in this video. So, there's the point about the aliens is, so their uniforms, the spaceship ramp, and a shot of the flying spaceship at the very end of the episode, those were all originally used in the film Forbidden Planet from 1956. I actually covered Forbidden Planet on my channel. You can go check that out. But those elements in this episode toward the end were actually taken from that film. And I didn't know that going into this, but I did some looking up before I actually watched the episode. So it was kind of fun to note that as I was watching it this time. And I could see, the alien's outfit does look like the jumpsuits from that movie, and the spaceship definitely was a flying saucer from Forbidden Planet, and I never really put that together before, so it gave it a little fun element for me. And the next time you watch this episode, look for that, and you'll see it. It's pretty cool. So just a little bit about the plot that I kind of picked up on today was the idea that when the aliens start turning off the power, and the characters, at first they're weirded out by it, but they're not freaking out, because it's more than just that. There was a craft that went over their street, and it looked like a meteor to them, and the radios aren't working, the telephones aren't working. So I can see why that would put them into a state of like being weirded out. But then Brant and another character, Charlie, start walking toward town, and it's this kid Tommy that stops them, and he is apparently a sci-fi comic book fan, and he puts the idea in their heads that there's some force, some aliens or something that flew over in that meteor looking thing that are going to maybe punish you if you leave the street. And the characters buy that, and so they don't walk into town. And it just kind of occurred to me that, had Tommy not stepped up and said that, would Charlie and Brant have gone into town? I don't know. So it's kind of interesting that is the thing that kind of put the idea in their head that there might be like infiltrated aliens are infiltrating the neighborhood. This kid says that, and they buy that pretty quickly. I don't know. I just thought that was something to know, because I never really questioned that before or thought about that before when I watched that. But when I was watching it today, it just kind of occurred to me that it really is this Tommy character that really set this whole thing off, because he's the one that put them on edge, even though the weird stuff was going on. I gotta wonder, had he not done that, would the outcome have been the same? I don't know. You tell me. Yeah, anyway, I love this episode. It's just so dark. And, of course, Serling, he had his ideas, I think, about the human condition and society and civilization, really, and what would it take to crumble that. And I think, I don't know if it was his experiences in World War II or whatnot, but he didn't have a lot of optimism for the resiliency of people. And you see that in a lot of his script, but definitely in this episode, because it did not take long for people to just kind of lose it and go dark. And I think that was a theme that Serling really liked to explore, and it's on full display here in this episode. All right, so that's the episode I decided to check out this week. The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, one of my favorites. what do you think of this episode? Let me know. I would be interested in your thoughts about that. Thanks for stopping by my channel. If you could maybe give us a like or subscribe if you haven't subscribed, that would help us out. I like talking about these old shows, old films, and I appreciate you stopping by. And if you would like me to cover another Twilight Zone episode, let me know, because I'm open to suggestions. I'm open to anything you want me to do, because I really like the show, and I don't think there really are too many bad episodes, so I'd be happy to check out whatever you want, so let me know. All right, well, thanks again. I appreciate it, and until the next time, have a good one.
Who's Bobo, sir?
Bobo? I meant Lobo. Sheriff Lobo. They never should have canceled that show.
Lobo. Lobo. Bring back Sheriff Lobo. Lobo. Lobo.